All right. First of all, thank you very much for having me. It's a privilege to be here. My name is Philip Akut. I'm from Kaduna State here in Nigeria, but I work in Kano State. I have a first degree and a second degree in international studies from Ahmadu Bello University and Bayero University in Kano here, respectively. Also, I'm a customer care specialist. Been doing that for about 7 years now and counting. And then, of course, being a student and a scholar of international studies, of course, we first of all get grounded in domestic politics first, and then the history of our nation and about so many things at all in our country. And then it gives us a better view to discuss and understand the global political space much better. So that's what I represent a lot today, right now.
Okay, all right, Mr. Philip.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your childhood, because here in this podcast, we pay a lot of attention to that because this is our history. This is who we are. Also, because
Okay.
we concentrate a lot about African diaspora, even though we also care so much about Africa, which is the mother continent. For
Okay.
this reason, talking about our childhood, where we are coming from, is particularly important. So please help me with that.
All right. So for my childhood, I grew up in Zaria, which is a part of Kaduna State, Nigeria. A humble beginning. My parents were, my father was a non-academic staff with ABU, that's Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. So grew up in the quarters, attended staff school, I was in the minor seminary, hoping to be a priest, finished up and then changed plans again. Went on to study international studies in ABU and finished up. And then took a long time before I went for my master's again here in Kano. So growing up was, I grew up largely under, I grew up under the military regime in the 90s. So just the Nigeria of that time was, of course, much, much different from Nigeria under the civilian regime and all that. Even though I was little, but I could remember a lot of things. The military governors, the decrees, the fear of the military men and all that. So that constitutes my childhood a lot. I didn't do too many adventures living in the staff quarters in Ahmadu Bello University, but yes, we still have stories here and there. But pretty much everything went smooth. My childhood, going to the minor seminary, a boarding school, thinking of being a priest, and then change plans, and now we are here today.
Wow, you wanted to be a priest. So, what stopped you from continuing with that line?
Yeah, so I ended up not graduating from the minor seminary. I left in my SS2. So I went to a mixed school with ladies, which was new to me because I was used to sitting in a classroom with only boys for 5 years. Now I'm in a classroom with ladies, and sometimes there's no permanency. Sometimes they want to sit close to you, and I was very shy growing up. So I can't concentrate when a lady is sitting beside me.
I see where the confusion was coming from now.
So all of that, and then in a way I became a lady's favorite, and then I was like, no, we may not end up becoming priests anymore. Like,
anyway, you did well. So you're going to tell this story to your children. I can guarantee you there's going to be a lot of laughter that day because it's very interesting.
Yeah, I really wish, like, I now, funny enough, I'm somebody that I grew up with a lot of ambitions. And I feel I won't force them, but maybe in a way, having children, I may advertise and market these ambitions to them, hoping that they will help me fulfill them. But if they don't, I'm not going to knock them for it. I'm not going to put pressure or force them, but I'll just show them. I wanted to be a footballer. I wanted to be a priest. I wanted to be, so all these things I wanted to be, I would maybe showcase it to them, hoping they find interest, and then I add my support to it. But if they don't, it's fine. So
that's good. That's good. That's interesting. All right, now let's come to the conversation that we have today. which is
Okay.
about the story of Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, who actually was the first, actually the only prime minister that Nigeria ever had. Because of course,
Yeah.
after that, the Nigeria structure changed. Now we have a fully presidential system of government, but then it was a parliamentary system.
Yeah.
So in this episode, we're going to be looking at the person of Tafawa Balewa, who he was, what can we learn from him, what are his political agenda, because this is how we review our history. Who is this personality to start from? How do you see him?
Okay. So for Sir Alhaji Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, which is his complete name, how I personally view him, it's a Pan-African leader, right? Of course, our first prime minister in Nigeria. And for the large part, he was somebody that was trying to manage peacefully ethnic and regional rivalries, added with our colonial master still hinged to Nigeria, even though we're independent. So he was trying to manage all of this peacefully without being dogged and very stubborn in achieving what Nigeria wants to achieve as at that time. So a lot of people, all the things I've said now, a lot of analysts have chosen to call him in this light. They call him weak-willed, or he didn't have the strong will to galvanize Nigeria to the vision that he was having for Nigeria at that time. But for me, I think he was just trying to manage everything peacefully, hold everything in one piece, all the rivaling parts, just make sure that everybody gets what they want and there's still peace at the end of the day. So that's how I see him largely.
All right, that's fine. Okay, later in the conversation, we're going to be looking at him. Okay, his vision is okay, and also the opinion that people have of him, and
Yeah.
what are his legacy, because that is actually what we are talking about him today. We are trying to look at his legacy and what we as current Nigeria can learn from him and people like him. All right, now
Okay.
let's go back to his childhood. What do we remember of him growing up? Tell us something about his background as a young boy.
Okay. So Sir Alhaji Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, he was born in 1912, right? December 1912. That was just 2 years before the amalgamation of what we have Nigeria right now. That's the northern and the southern protectorate of Nigeria. So that was the period he was born, 1912. He had a very humble background, unlike most of our politicians in the First Republic as at that time. Most of the politicians you see in that time, most of them didn't have that quite humble background like this personality we are talking about. So he grew up very flat, very humble background, no rich uncles or rich parents. His father was a district head. He was a clerk to a district head, right? So he never had privileges of any sort. The only thing he could afford was just the basic Quranic school. Then from there, the next best thing, because they saw that this person was very intelligent, they now tried and just made sure he attended the Katina College for the education, which is currently now called Balewa College in Kaduna. So basically he was very humble, quiet background. There's no much, you won't hear so much about his antics when he was little or as a kid. He was just a loyal, cool, and straightforward person growing up until he went into that college. That was where things changed, because there he met people like Sir Amadu Bello, met people like Abubakar Imam, and then all these things now influenced him into becoming the greater person he became.
In his young adolescent years, is there anything that we can talk of, maybe relating to anything that he might have done or people have done to him, like his friend, of course, before he became a politician, a popular person now? I'm still looking
Yeah.
at him as an ordinary person. Is there anything that we can look at? It can even be his friends. Maybe, I don't know, they go to a party or they have fun, they had a fight, anything that we can look at. Can you share with us?
For him, for Alhaji Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, because of his very cool background, he didn't have an adventurous childhood growing up, even in his adolescent stage in life. And he was not somebody that had any ambition towards politics growing up. He never thought of leadership he never thought of leadership or politics or being in front. He never thought of putting himself in front to lead. He didn't have any special leadership positions like a class captain or a senior prefect, or he never had any of those. He was just another kid on the block. No troubles, no stories, no very familiar or unfamiliar reports about him like that. He was, not to use the word non-existent, but he just everything was so quiet about him. And you would see that even in his political career and all his activities over the years, but he never had there was no controversy, no special adventure. At least maybe we could say that was recorded about him so far. Mm-hmm. But he never had any, just a normal, easygoing child growing up, even at his adolescent stage. Avoided conflict, resolved them as soon as possible. He wanted peaceful coexistence. He wanted harmony at all the time. So that was what he represented even while growing up.
Mm-hmm. So he wasn't a type who could make trouble in the society, but he grew up in the colonial system now, because at the time that he was a child or a young adolescent, Nigeria was not free yet. Nigeria was still pretty much under the British system.